Now recording.
Welcome to Salcedo Paranormal. It is Tuesday, March 15th, 2022. And today I'll be sharing true ghost stories from the web. As always, to find all the episodes of the show and links to social media, ways to donate, and other ways to contact me, you can always visit the podcast page, which is Salcedo Paranormal at podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. And always looking to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions for shows, or whether you would like to be on the show or have your story featured on a show. Whether you want to share a story about your experience in writing, where I read it on the show, or if you want to actually join me on the show to talk about that, you're welcome to do so. So I believe that covers everything as far as all that. I'm going to be doing an interview that I'm very excited for tonight. Later on, I'll be I guess one of my favorite shows. I have a few. Where Did the Road Go? Which I'm really honored to be invited onto that. So that will be interesting, and I will let everyone know when that episode is live once it is released. So I'll be talking, I think, mainly about my paranormal dream experiences. So there may be a lot of review in there for those of you that have already been listening to my show a lot or other shows that I've been on. But it's always good. I always enjoy getting to meet people and share my stories with people that haven't heard them yet. And so I'm looking forward to that later on tonight. All right, I think that's everything. So let's go check on the Word document here. Make sure I can. Okay, good. It's scrolling. Last night I started and with the document just totally froze on me. I couldn't do anything in it. Couldn't scroll down. So had to restart the show and everything. But so far it's working tonight. So let me see here. I guess I'll get started. This one says, last night I woke up to an alarm I set in case my boyfriend had trouble waking up for work. I handed him my phone and told him that he had to get up. When I turned over, I saw what looked like a toddler. She was standing on the bed, staring at me, and at first I thought it was my daughter. So I asked her what was wrong and told her to come lay down next to me. She seemed off. Her eyes were wide and staring at me, and her skin was so pale it looked like porcelain. There was a stain on her dress, and when she went to lay down next to me, it was unnatural. Her legs did not bend. It was as if she was falling in slow motion. And she watched me the entire time, the whole time. This is when I realized this was not my daughter. My child was asleep in her crib on the other side of the house. This girl's hair was curly and blonde. My daughter's is straight and brown. I froze, and this girl disappeared into thin air. There is a window behind my head that was closed, but I could feel cold air blowing in my face. I waited for my boyfriend to return to the room, but he never did. It was nearly morning, so the room was light. My dog was fast asleep behind me, so it wasn't him, and I can't blame my cats because none of them wanted to come to my room to sleep last night. Okay, there we go. Which is also unusual. I had a hard time getting the dog to come to bed too. My family home has a history of little ghost girl talking, but no one has actually seen her. I don't know if it was her or not, as this is my own house, and my sister, who lives in my old house, is still experiencing strange things. I just feel like I need to talk to someone about this. I was so scared. And that's where that one ends. That is a wild story, especially the slow motion part. Also, the fact that the animals the night before didn't want to come into the room. The cats wouldn't, and the dog had to be kind of coaxed to do it. So that is odd that happened like that. And then the slow motion falling action. That I guess I don't know if it makes you wonder if it was a little girl or some other entity or spirit appearing as that. Like I said, the slow motion falling without it didn't seem like it was a natural fall either, the way that was described. So, yeah, very odd story. I don't know what to make of that. I can't say. Sometimes I can kind of get a sense of, oh, that seemed like a regular spirit of a person that had passed, and they were just going through motions, or they saw the person that was living there. This time, I don't really know for sure. I mean, not that I ever know for sure, but I don't really know even to that degree, like I do sometimes, or I feel like I do sometimes. I'm not saying that well. I don't ever know anything, but there are sometimes there are indications of it being possibly a regular spirit. And this one doesn't have those. There we go. That's what I was trying to say. Um, so yeah, that's an odd one. And I hope that's all that happened though. That's sounds almost like though the family has history of having activity around them. Um, at least the siblings do. So, yeah, it's a wild story. That would be frightening to have something like that appear and then just fall and then disappear. So, but I guess with that we can get on to the next story. And let me see here. Okay, this one says, I have no idea how to explain this experience. I don't know if they were spirits or my imagination, but I've been puzzled for years about it. When I was younger, living in this house, I used to sleep with my door open that connected to a hallway. Every night, and I mean every night, around 2 or 3 a.m., I would wake up and see people, black figures, I'm guessing they mean like shadow figures, walking in and out of my room and up and down the hallway. There was always already one figure just standing in my room. It scared me for a long time, but eventually it became normal. I could move and speak during this too, so I guess what they're saying there is it wasn't sleep paralysis. After about 2 years of being in this room, I switched rooms. I switched to a different room in the house, and it never happened again. It's kind of baffling to me, but a good story to tell. If anyone could provide some kind of explanation, that would be amazing. Who knows, though? But Yeah, that's the end of that story. And that's not uncommon. You do get that from time to time. People will talk about seeing figures. And not always just one figure, but multiple figures. It always makes me, is it another family living in the same house in some different dimension? Are they wondering, and this kind of came up last night in another show, Trouble Minds Radio. Is it there? Or no? No, it wasn't in the show. I forget now. It was in the talk after the show, um, in the voice chat of that Discord server about what what ghosts are and what how we look to them and how they look to us and all of that. So that just makes me think of that. That's funny that I found that today, that story today. Um, and it just does. It makes you wonder: are those regular people, but just in some other dimension, or are they spirits that also stay in the house? It's interesting. I wonder now, though. The writer said they moved to another room, but I wonder if that means was the room in that same hallway? Because if it was in that same hallway, in that same area, and they never saw it again, that's odd in a way. But if they were in a completely different part of the house, then um, maybe that would explain why they didn't see anything. Because maybe they were just who knows how this works. Maybe you know, um, maybe whatever these were, they were only in that one area. So, but thought that was really interesting. So let's see here. Go on to the next one. Thank you all for listening, of course, as always, whether you're listening to the live stream or the podcast or Discord, podcast or YouTube feeds. I appreciate everyone listening, no matter where you're at. So, let's see here. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Okay, I found it. All right. This story says I waited to tell this one, but it's a bit long, and it's been on my mind lately. My mom showed me some gold items gifted to me when I was born. It's an Italian thing in common. That's interesting. I didn't know about that. What caught my eye was this beautiful, twisted but strong bracelet with a gorgeous golden acorn charm. I was a young teen, and she let me wear it. Delighted at the charm being so unusual, I was. Let's see. It was about a few months in, and I woke up as usual. My jewelry was all laid out, and the charms and the medals in the middle. The acorn was missing. I'm an only child, and did have a cat, but it was too clumsy, or chunky, it says, sorry, to get on the dresser. I looked around, and nothing. I wasn't too worried because I figured it had to be here somewhere. I remember taking it off. I was working at a camp at the time, and the last week, the counselors liked to goof around. I was collecting arrows and fell down a hill, and rain started. We ran for shelters and then to the bus. And then, okay, there we go. It says, and then my bracelet was now gone. We came back the next day, found nothing. No acorn yet either. I was pretty upset. I started dating a guy I met on the bus every day. We had a great time together and both loved to roller skate. We were dating a few months or so without the knowledge of my Parents yet? Okay. He'd never been to my house yet. He complained about a stone in his skate and tipped it upside down. I kid you not, my face felt like all the blood left it. My eyes were huge. He kept saying, "What? What?" It was a gold acorn, exactly like the one I had. I told him a story, and we were pretty shocked. I put the acorn on a chain uh, I'd worn since I was 7. It said work. I think it meant I worn since I was 7. Sorry about that. It had never broken or been undone. Going forward, at a friend's house one day, I felt something at the back of my neck, and then slithering. My chain undid itself and was on the floor. Metal Metals were all there, but my acorn was gone. We've never found it, and they redid the flooring. It never reappeared. Oh, I'm now 55 and forgot to ask a psychic I used to know. How did it do that? Why did it leave? Anyone have anything they feel? Please chime in. It says they have more stories to share. But anyway, that's basically the end of that story. And that is really odd. That is not also uncommon. I keep on closing or minimizing my browser window because I'm using the two screens again. But to have something disappear and reappear like that here and there, that's really interesting. But that's, I believe that's called an apport or an apport. These are these things that randomly appear to disappear and appear, or appear and disappear. They've kind of been linked to other paranormal activity. In some cases, even cryptids. In some cases, or at least there's been activity of both, of these things appearing and disappearing and appearing in the same areas where. Oh boy. Let me see here. That's odd. Let me see here. What's going on? Okay. Well, luckily I have a backup recorder because the regular one just quit. Anyway. So it's really interesting about that item. And so I thought that was a neat one to share because those are some long spans in between with this item appearing and disappearing like that. And how, I mean, that had to have just appeared or been put in the writer's boyfriend's skate, because how would that be there? So yeah, really interesting story. Okay. Let's see here. All right, we'll go on to the next story here. This one says, I had a really odd experience a few years ago, which really made me question everything. I would consider myself a very rational thinker and scientifically minded. And I am never worried about bumps in the night or being on my own in the house. But that night, here's what happened. I was staying at a bed and breakfast. I was at a conference overseas with a couple of the guys from work. And the company had put us up in this adorable little family-run place in the countryside. After a long day of writing reports, placing orders, and generally boring activity, we were delighted to get back to our place to unwind. We had gone down to the local restaurant for food, and a couple of drinks. After a while, we decided to retire to our rooms, as it was getting late. There were 5 rooms in the place, and we were in 3 of them. During the night, I was awoken multiple times by the sounds of a crying baby. I must be honest and say that I was really mad. We were working all day, and I just needed some rest. I could tell that it was coming from a room close by, and it took me a long time to get back to sleep. The next morning, we were checking out, with the owner. He was a really lovely guy, and when he asked for some feedback, I had to be honest. I told him that everything was perfect apart from the crying baby. I joked about the situation as he, of course, had no control over this. I've gotten used to that. You stop hearing it after a while, he said. When I asked what he meant, I was shocked. The owner informed me that the crying happens regularly, that they did not have any infants staying in the property that night. It was just us. Allegedly, back in the 1920s, there was a young girl from the town who had fallen pregnant by a soldier. It was a one-night stand, and the soldier left her. The girl was forced to leave her family home and was shunned by her friends and family for getting pregnant. She sought help from an orphanage, which was the building which is now a B&B. And they agreed to let her stay there. One night, she delivered a baby girl with the help of a couple of the nuns that were in the orphanage. After a couple of days, it got to be too much for her. She secretly packed her bags in the night, her baby in the luggage drawer in the room, and fled. The mother superior of the orphanage was awoken by the sounds of the baby crying for its mother early in the next morning. The baby died of influenza 3 weeks later. Ever since, the cries are still heard to this day. I still consider myself a skeptic, but that got to me. And that's where that story ends. That's a really interesting one. I wonder, as always with these stories of events that supposedly happened, I wonder if there's any kind of verification of that. Obviously, the writer didn't put the name of the place or the area, so there's no way to know. But it's hard to say. So that's still interesting that was heard, and especially by people that had no idea what was going on. So yeah, interesting story. So let's see here. I've got 2 more, and then we'll be done. So this next one says, just a little context about my mom. She is definitely not someone into the paranormal. But she wouldn't sit there and say she doesn't believe in ghosts either. In other words, she is generally pretty accepting about this kind of stuff. based on the few times we've talked about it. But her story is cool, and I just wanted to share. Let's see. So my mom and aunt were close with an old neighbor, Dee. My aunt lives across the street from us, Dee being her neighbor. Towards the end of these days, they were over her home a lot to help out. And when she passed, they helped the family pack up and get the house in order. One night, when it was just my aunt and mom there, my mom told me she heard noise from the upstairs bathroom. It was a 2-story house. And when she went up to see if maybe my aunt needed help moving something, she instead found the sink on with a toothbrush and the toothpaste out, like someone was about to brush their teeth. She always said she just thought it was Dee, which I thought she was always. I thought it was always cool that my mom just accepted her and didn't think too much about it. It didn't scare her or anything. She just thought it must be Dee's ghost. Anyway, just wanted to share. And that's an interesting one. That's like this person going through just regular routine, regular activities. Maybe, or it was either that or it was a sign to show that they were still there. So either way, that's a neat little story there. So let's see here. I've got one more left. I just gotta find the beginning. Okay. This one says, my dad worked at a multi-level parts store about 30 years ago, and everyone knew about the numerous ghosts that would cause some trouble. Well, he was putting away a muffler on a lower level, which consisted of feeding a wire through one end so it could be hung on a line. My dad had a medium pile of these to put away still when he saw a muffler on the very end of the line start to sway. Knowing about the ghosts, he sort of lightheartedly said something like, if you're going to creep me out, at least help me out. Not expecting a reaction. He placed the muffler he'd wired on the line, and he turned back to grab another, and they disappeared. There was a small pile of wire left, but the 15 mufflers had vanished. He turned back, and they were in the spot he would have continued to hang them, inches from his body. He told me his heart and breathing stopped for a second, and he just said, "Thanks," and walked back upstairs and left. There was a few more stories like this at the parts store, but this one always stuck out to me. It made me wonder how ghosts can do such things. And that's a good question. Part of the story title, because in the site that I use they have titles, is they were asking about, can ghosts manipulate time or exist out of time? And I think it does seem like they can in some cases. And this is quite the activity. That's things disappearing and reappearing again in split seconds, or at least seconds. So I thought that was a neat little story, and that's quite a lot to move. I mean, I don't know how heavy mufflers are, but still, if there's several of them, that's not just a little bit to pick up. So, but yeah, that's pretty amazing. I always think those stories of industrial or retail places that have activity in them are just really interesting because it's not like you're going to a house that you feel or you think or you heard might be haunted. Now, granted, the people there that apparently they didn't know about some of the strange activity, but it's not why they go there. They're going there to work. So yeah, I really enjoyed that story. That's quite the it's quite the reaction. So, but that's gonna do it for today. And thank you all for being here. Like I said, whether you listen live or to the podcast or YouTube channel, I'll be back with more of these kind of stories tomorrow night, and we'll go from there. So I will talk to you all tomorrow on the next episode of Salcedo Paranormal. Have a good night.